Once again, this is Nuance, and I am Mike Scala. We'll be speaking of a plethora of topics, actually, including the release of my new album, Mike Scholar. Of course, I'm joined, as always, by Jay Carter, also known as Timid, hip hop artist, and the chair of BLM Tokyo, and also the guest on Mike Scholar. What's going on, Jay?
What's going on? Congratulations on the album release. I think you led off something with something there that we should probably incorporate more. I don't think people use the word plethora enough these days. I think it's a good word.
It's an underrated word, a plethora of
It
topics.
is. It
Yeah.
is. I think we should
Yeah.
do more with it.
And you know what? Speaking of a plethora of topics, Mike Scholar, the album, actually covers a plethora of topics. It delivers my perspective as a multifaceted guy, right? There's something maybe you don't hear too often, multifaceted, right? But obviously, I'm a long-time MC, also an attorney, also in politics, and so I'm giving you my unique experiences in these worlds, and really just my thoughts on life. One of the songs I actually would like to speak about is about my father, but we'll get to that in a minute. I'm
Mm.
just really excited that this is out. This has been a long time coming. I've wanted to put out a great solo project for a long time. It's always been a goal of mine. And so, on a personal level, I'm really happy now that this is out there, something I really am proud of as a body of work. I made a post on social media. I recorded 30 songs over the past few years for this project, right? As I said, not necessarily thinking every single one was going to make the final album, but just doing that process, doing the reps, right? Just going in there, doing those
Yep.
recordings. Came out with
Yep.
9 songs I wanted to put out on this project. Really happy with it. So everyone, if you can, go stream that now. I think regardless of your tastes, you'll find something on there that you like. It is. I'll say this. I think it's a hardcore hip hop album. Some people might not be expecting that from me at this stage. Maybe they thought it might be a little softer or something. I don't know. This is straight up hardcore hip hop, but it's coming from me. You know what I mean? So if you are interested in me and my work, what I have to say, I think you'll get a kick out of it, and you like it. I think it's really good.
That's what's up. Yeah. And I have to agree. I've heard the album. I heard it all while you were putting it together.
Oh yeah,
And yeah. And I'm on a couple of tracks, so I'm cool with that.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
definitely good.
Shout out also to Malik Sanders. Speaking of helping me put this together, he was there, kind of like an A&R yourself as well. Nothing official, but as I was recording the project, I would send stuff to you guys, and Malik would always give me his honest opinion on it. And some of the songs I thought might have been hot initially, and he was like, "Nah, that's not the one." And then that's good because you need that credibility if you're gonna rely on someone's opinion like that. If they tell you everything is equally good, then you really don't have any value from that, right? Of course, you don't want a hater. You want someone who likes what you do to begin with. But it's
Right.
nice to get that honest feedback where he's like, you know what, like this one is a lot better than this one, or even on this song, I like what you did here better than what you did over there on that verse or whatever. And also, you don't always listen to all the feedback that you get. It's still your project, and
Sure.
someone else make the final decision on it. But it's good to have those other sets of ears to kind of give their feedback. And so I wanted to shout him out because he inspired me to go in there and really step it up. I think we took a trip down to Virginia a few years ago, and sometimes your boys will drink a little bit, start talking trash. It was kind of one of those situations where he was like trying to battle me and that kind of stuff. And he was like really trying to push me and lean on me to bring the best out of me lyrically and on the mic, flow wise and everything. And so I made it my mission to impress him. Right after that night, after him trying to give me a little bit of trash talking, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna really shut him up. So next time he won't be even trying to battle me or get out of line. Like he's going to respect the skills like a lot more than he does now. And so I went in there, I started recording stuff and sending them to Malik. Hey, what do you think about this? And he was like, yo, you know what I'm saying? And then I saw I was starting to impress him more and more as time went on. And so I think that uh, challenge or whatever it was from him kind of sparked what became the project and really brought the best out of me
That's what's up. Yeah, I mean that that's very helpful. Whether it's just someone to bounce the stuff with or talk with or work with or just to be around you in that headspace, or someone to challenge you. It's very helpful in, you know, honing your craft, creating something new, or just having that motivation to keep pushing or to do something. So
Yeah, yeah, and it's funny. After I had the track list in play, actually no, after I had the tracks, but not the final order. Right when I have the songs I wanted to put on the album, I gave them to Malik. I was like, "What do you think about these songs?" And he played them for a few different people. I got a call, and it was so weird because obviously he's involved in local politics here, his father being in the Senate, and he was actually in the car with our friend Khalil, who mentioned him last week, who's also
Right.
now right in the assembly. And they're on the way to Albany together, right? They're in a car together, listening to the album in the car, and they tell me that they want to speak to me about the album. And so now my mind starts racing, right? Because I'm thinking, all right, I'm getting calls from political people saying they want to talk about the album, they want to discuss my album. I'm thinking they're saying you might not want to put some songs on there. Maybe they're too controversial. Maybe politically they might be spun the wrong way. Maybe people might be too sensitive about certain things. That's what I'm thinking. My mind is, I'm thinking they're telling me not to do certain things.
Right.
They're not. They're saying that they love the album, but they have suggestions on the track listing. They're like, you should start off with a song like this, and then go to this. And they were kind of again A&Ring the project, almost saying, it would hit better if you arranged it this way. So crazy, right? Crazy times to get a call from people in politics to discuss your hip hop album, and not about the political implications of it, but about the musicality of it, about how you can make that album hit the hardest. Uh, I love it, right? This is amazing to me. This is exactly what I always wanted to do with my life, and these are the rooms I always wanted to be in. These are the calls I always wanted to get. You know what I mean? The fact that this all came together. And if you see the album cover, it's literally a microphone, right? Mike Scholar. It's a microphone in the graduation cap standing on the steps of the courthouse in Manhattan. And he's got all these signs, all these people trying to give him different messages, right? He's like looking like a little anxious, like what am I going to do with all this? And there are certain scenes going on. I might do a TikTok. In fact, I plan to, maybe even a few TikToks showcasing the album cover. Shout out to the Jazz. He's known as the painting MC. He drew the artwork for this and really depicted a lot of what's going on musically in the album on the cover in
Hmm.
sometimes subtle ways, right? Like one of them is if you look on the top right hand corner above the courthouse on the album cover, you see a billboard. And, if you're just glancing at it, you might not think much of it. All right, it's just a billboard, something in the background. But if you really zoom in and look at what that is, that's a parody of my father's movie poster, because that was Who's That Knocking at My Door was the first Scorsese movie. My dad was an actor in that movie. If you look at the album cover, let me zoom in here. There's a depiction of it that's very similar to the movie poster, but the
Hmm.
title of it has changed. And I think my idea was to make it more modern, right? Instead of Who's That Knocking at My Door, I actually can't see it from the social media post because it's that small. But if you zoom in on the full size, high resolution artwork, you'll be able to see. But it's something like, who's that ringing or who's something about like a Ring doorbell, or it's like basically the modern version of Who's That Knocking at My Door. You know what I mean? Because
Right.
it's supposed to be like a modern parody of that movie.
And what's the character on the cover?
Yeah, that's Mike Scholar. That's the microphone wearing the graduation cap. He's literally Mike Scholar.
Oh, okay. You know what? I didn't catch that it was an actual microphone
Yeah,
with because it's got legs on. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
yeah. So that's me. It's almost like I was preordained to do this with a name like Mike Scala, right? How can I
Right. Right.
not? How can I not showcase that? And how could that not be who I am, right? These are different sides of me. How can they not be those sides of me? And how can I not showcase those sides of me given that name? And I actually have to give credit to our man Strike. We were talking about the 1212 jump off event that we did in Long Island back in 2004, right?
Mm.
Strike was one of those performers who performed that night.
Mm.
He actually pointed it out to me that your name is perfect for hip hop. I'm like, what do you mean your name is perfect for hip hop? He's like, Mike Scholar. He's like, Mike Scholar, like a scholar on the microphone. And this is before law school and everything. But he's just talking about like you're a scholar at rapping, basically. And I'm like, wow, I never even thought of it like that. Now it even makes more sense, right? With the whole law school thing and being in politics. So, uh,
Right.
I almost feel like this is destiny. But
Nice.
speaking of the hip hop, we have a special guest coming in from the hip hop community, it seems.
Do we now? Um, where is he at?
He's right here.
Yo,
What's going on?
Cymarshall Law.
What's going on, fellas?
What's
Hey,
going on with you?
Y'all hear me well?
yes. I like that background. It's very busy. What you got going on? I see was that a flag back there and records, pictures, posters,
It's all
speaker.
type, just like you said, it's all types of things. It's some vinyls, it's some
Yeah.
books, it's some pop figures, it's an American flag, it's all types of things. Speakers,
There you go. Got the
everything
speaker
that I
right there.
love. A painting.
Who's the pop figure? Who's the pop figure?
That's Queen General Ramonda from Black Panther 2 or Black
Is
Panther.
that me?
Black Panther's mom,
Ah, okay, okay.
Queen
Gotcha.
Ramonda.
I think I must have froze for a second or something like that.
Yep.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. She was robbed. She was robbed of the best actress. Anyway, different topic.
Yeah. So
So,
He was Rob. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
go ahead,
So
Jay.
we got Cy Martial Law here to talk with us. We were just talking about Mike's album release. Um, you of course are another MC as well, and also actually a part of the same Ruckus crew, right? You were also Ruckus 50.
I was. When did your album drop, Mike?
It just dropped on Friday.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. And just like your background there, it looks like you're putting together different parts of your life, right? Bringing them together into one scene. That's what I tried to do with the album. I'm in politics now. I'm an attorney now. Of course, started out in hip hop, never stopped being in hip hop. And so now I'm kind of bringing it all together. And
Mm,
I call it political rap in a new light because I'm not doing typical political rap. I'm actually doing hip hop from the perspective of someone in politics. I'm giving you my experience in that world and all the crazy things you go through in that world. And so, I think it's something fresh. It's a different take on that genre, on that style of hip hop.
so you're the real law.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Mm, I see what's going on here.
Yeah.
So, and you've continuously, you've got a long catalog yourself. Like you seem to put out at least an album or two a year. Like you stay quite busy in the music.
I do. I do. I do. That's just who I am.
That's what's up. That's what's
Never
up.
gonna stop. It's just
That's what's
Yeah.
up.
I saw you. I think, Jay, you might have been there as well. We saw you on stage at Scribble Jam 2004, I think it was.
that was one of my favorite Scribble Jams. I was
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
2004 and 2005.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
2004, that was who won the MC battle? Was that Immaculate? I think so.
I don't know, but I'll never forget a couple lines from that battle. I was outside right in front. This dude said, Immaculate said, he said, no, someone said to Immaculate, he said, little man thinks Scribble Jam is Disneyland. But then
Nice.
I told you it was one of my favorite ones. He
Mhm.
told someone, and your eyes look swollen, son. You better give him back to the goldfish you stole them from.
Ah, that's dope. That's dope.
Yeah, but then he battled Swan. He said, I can fit inside your stomach standing up.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
good times.
Def- Definitely good times. And I don't know, we've talked about it before. Like I don't know if there's anything like that now happening, like a Scribble Jam.
Yeah, not in that format. It moved away from that style of battle.
Well, not even just the battle, just the whole vibe, right? Because it was more, the stuff now you might start out with like a small festival and they'll come in and they take a lot of cats from the underground scene or whatever, and then when they start getting bigger, then they replace all of them with more famous acts because now they've built a name and like, you know, I don't see that anymore,
No,
you know?
you're absolutely right. It's I was gonna say rough, but I suppose just different times. But no,
Mhm.
I'll say rough because I would like that stuff to come back. Um,
Yeah,
that and just more of the local shows because even
exactly. The scene, right? Back in the day, you in New York City, there'll be a show almost every night of the week. Hip hop was thriving
Yo,
locally.
I
Now it's like you got to find something on SOBs once a month. Like it's not the same as what it was.
right. Just the open mics, like in New
Yeah,
Brunswick,
showcases,
something
local
every
shows, small shows, all kinds of stuff, right?
yeah.
Battles. Yeah.
I would like to have a place where I can just go and practice my material whenever I want, like a
Mhm.
place that's like I can just get on the mic whenever I want. There used to
Yeah.
be places like that all over the
Yeah.
place.
Yeah. Like a new EO dub type thing.
Right. But there's a lot of them, even ones like that don't have a big name. They used to be everywhere. You could just
Yeah.
get on the
Yeah.
mic somewhere, and they're not around anymore. So yeah, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
that whole time, yeah, hell yeah, I wish that would come back. I don't know how that's gonna happen or if that's gonna happen. I would love for it to happen. If you guys have a plan for it to happen, I'm down to help.
Okay. Yeah, I think COVID killed a lot of that, and it's just a different
Yeah.
world now, right? Coming out of that, it's like I don't
Yeah,
know, everything
hit it on the
is
head.
online. I told Jay on here once, it kind of feels like waking up from a coma and discovering a whole new world of music promotion, right? Because I never stopped making music, but I had stopped putting out new stuff for a while. Now coming back out of it on the other end of the pandemic, it's just so different. Everything is digital ads and people are blowing up, never leaving their bedroom. It's new. It used to be a scene. You had to go out there and make a name for yourself, and that's kind of dead.
Constantly new. It's
Yeah,
there. We haven't found a stable ground since the pandemic.
yeah, yeah,
And I think, I think part of that, these little spots people could go to, or the showcases, the shows that people go to, and like you can hone your mic skills, you can hone like the newer cats coming up now don't really seem either interested or don't need to do that because they do it through their social media posts. They build their followings through the social media posts. And, some don't even touch a stage before they have like a hit song. And
You
so
hit it
like
on the
they're
head.
not even honing skills.
Just like they don't know that they should want to hone those on stage skills. It's like that part is not a factor anymore. Like it doesn't
Right.
exist. Like the whole
yeah.
stage presence thing, like it's like they don't even have to have that anymore. They don't even think about it.
No,
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 because by the time they do get to a stage, the song that they're working on probably blew up on social media and fans already like it. You don't really have to create a certain personality or hone your personality or skills on the mic to
that
control the
was
crowd because they're
yeah.
already fans of it.
But you just said it there, Jay. Control the crowd. That was really what defined an MC. People used to say that all the time, right? An MC is someone who can get on stage and hold down the party, control the crowd, move the crowd. MC. And that was the distinction between MC and rapper. Even that's kind of dead, right? That sounds like a quaint old school KRS type thing now, because these new guys and girls coming up, they don't even care about that. They don't care about the stage and the party. You know what I mean? And everything is just digital, like you said.
They don't, but there's a thirst for it to come back because
Right.
everyone feels
Right.
that void of what it used to be there is gone.
Mm.
Everyone's like, what the fuck? Everybody is like, so there's room for it to come back. I definitely feel now that like everyone can come back outside again, like
Right.
Right,
everyone needs that to come back.
Right.
right.
And also there's a lane for more lyrical hip hop because you saw hip hop kind of move away from that, at least what was popular for a while. But I think it left that void where a lot of fans were like, yo, hold up, we missed that. We need more of that. And we need more variety, right? It doesn't all have to be one thing, but let's have a wide like it used to be. And my lead single for this album was Bring Raucous Back. It wasn't about the label per se, even though I told the story of the label, but the idea is like let's bring that spirit back to the game. And I think this is thirst. I mean, I think that's why you see the stuff I'm putting out now resonating with a lot of people because people want to hear that. Yours as well. We saw your track was on like one of the top charts. What was it? The Jay Rap Attack Lives, right? We saw him on like what, number 3 or number 4 last week.
That's
Um,
that's great.
Go ahead, go ahead.
I don't even know what song you're talking about, but that's
Yeah, I'll pull it up right now. I'll tell you because we
Yeah.
we dropped a single Handcuffs, which is also on my album, and that was one of the songs that had just made it onto the chart as a new entry. But your song was one of the top songs on there, so I'll tell you which one in a second.
Mm. So, but aside, we're talking about hip hop and we're talking about rapping and rhyming, and then all the stuff in the background, different parts of your life, and how we've done the same thing, not just music, but books. Like, so one of the things we wanted to talk about was your new book. This is your second book.
It is.
Yeah. So what's the new book? Where can people get that?
The book is available basically in two places, either directly from me or on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
Amazon, you'll probably get it faster if you have Amazon Prime. So
True,
Amazon,
true.
the monopoly is killing it. I don't know how much I like that, but they are servicing my book well. So you can get that on Amazon.com. Just type in my name and you'll find it. And or get it directly from me. That just means I have to go to the post office. So if you want me to do work, you can get it directly
So,
from me.
really quick, you said your name. So your real name is Marshall. How does Cymarshall Law come?
My real name is Cymar,
Gotcha.
Cymar. And as far as I know, I'm the first one. It's original. My dad invented the name. So yeah, my first name is Cymar, Cymar. And
Okay.
my MC name originally was Martial Law, but
Mhm.
then I heard about another martial law and I wanted to stay original. So luckily, Cy went on the front of Marshall. So I just
Right.
named Cy Martial Law.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely a memorable name. And do you have roots overseas in the UK or in the islands? I remember hearing about that. Or am I
Yeah.
just I know you're from Jersey, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was raised in Jersey. I was
Yeah.
born in England,
In England. Okay.
and both of my parents were born in Jamaica, and pretty much
Gotcha.
the rest of
Gotcha.
my family
Okay.
is Jamaican. Me and
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
brother and sister were born in England, but the rest of our family is Jamaican. But we
Okay.
moved to New Jersey a long time ago, and we're raised in New Jersey. I went to high school in New Jersey, all that. So middle school, elementary school.
True
I'm an
that.
American citizen.
True that. So tell us about talk about your new book. What's it about? What was what like putting it together and stuff.
It's a version, or I should say an extension of my first book, which is I Still Love Her. So this book is called 52 Laws of Freedom. It's a weekly guide to raw self-expression and mental health. Um, there are 52 laws that are original that I invented, that I made up over the course of maybe like 2 or 3 years. Just every once in a while, I just think of a law. Like I'd be in a situation and I'd think like this is a certain thing that I'm gonna follow going forward. So I'd write it down and I'd be like that's one law. And then
Mhm.
as I used to write a couple of these laws on Facebook, and people used to say you should write a book. I remember Mr. Green was one of the people who said you should write a book, but and then I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do it. So I went forward with it. So it's 52 laws that I feel like guide guided my life or can guide anyone's life to have a enriched experience of life. And so this book is an extension of my first book, which is also an autobiography. So this second book is not an autobiography. I completely took that out and I made this more of a diary. So each week after a given law, you have a chance to reflect and write what you've learned about yourself on that week. And then each week you go forward. And after the 52 weeks, hopefully you've become a better person. That's the
So
goalpost.
give us an example of what one of the laws is. What does that sound like?
So one of the laws, I mean, I have the book right here. One of the laws, law 17 would be aware of what you're calling into existence.
Mm.
And
Mm,
that law means a lot to me. It should mean a lot to a lot of people. And it's a phrase that I feel like if you've never heard before and you've never thought about it before, um, when you do and you like really contemplate it, there's so much that can come from it because no matter what you're saying or doing, you're always calling something into existence. So you have to pay attention to every move. So that's why I never say fuck something unless I mean it, because I know if I really want that thing to stay in my life, more than likely me saying fuck that thing is going to make that thing vanish. And it happens on the opposite end as well, for positive or negative, but just beware of what you're calling into existence, because I believe that we're all creators, and I have a strong feeling that there's a lot of people that don't give ourselves enough credit for how powerful we are. So hearing something like that um is just something that I took to heart at the time when I stopped and was like, you know what, I'm gonna write this down and this has to be a law because I know when I speak things powerfully, when I have a lot of energy or action towards a goal, I make that thing happen, whether it's
Right.
good or bad. And
Mhm.
you know, it's be careful of what you're calling into existence because you are the creator. And so yeah, that's just one law.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's meta about that. By writing that law down, you're calling that law into existence.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I
absolutely.
think it also kind of that one specifically kind of also has some connections in some Eastern philosophies, some of the older Eastern philosophies where they talk about intention is
Yeah.
really important. And when you call, like you said, you call something into existence, you're basically putting an intention out there. And so that that promotes movement, whether it's good bad movement or bad movement, there's an intention that's
Right.
been birthed there. And so, it's good to realize what it is that you are putting out there so that it doesn't manifest in ways that maybe you don't want it to manifest.
All
Right.
right. So I found the song real quick and I
Wait,
was
wait, wait.
mistaken.
Before we move on, I want to say that because I
Yeah.
don't, I like to, I just want to say this. That's
Yeah.
why I pray before I eat all of my food because it's
Mm.
the intention and what you're putting into it. So
Mm.
you're gonna get back what you put into it. So sorry. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. So no, I found the song that you were on. I actually was mistaken. It wasn't last week. I had seen this on Nasty Ness's Instagram. So it was back on August 18th, it looks like. But your song Inspired Pumpkinhead was number 3 on the college radio chart.
Big up to Pumpkinhead. That's my
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah, for sure. I was out on Park Slope recently and just kind of stumbled upon his street sign. I was like, oh, it's right here. Oh. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, man. Halloween coming, Pumpkinhead. I always think about him by Halloween for obvious reasons.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Shout out PH.
True,
I wanted
true.
to do that joint because you know, Pumpkinhead definitely inspired me. I'm the type of guy that likes giving people credit, and he inspired me a lot. He helped me out a lot. He gave me a lot of confidence. So big up Pumpkinhead.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And the whole Brooklyn Academy, right? Mark Bars, Mr. Metaphor,
Word
also
up.
part of that Rockets 50. It's cool. All right,
Now,
go ahead, Jay.
no, I was gonna say, yeah, so on the book, like you said you've got 52, so obviously, like you said, it's once a week, and so promotes people to take stock of these laws and then journal about it. And so have you gone through this process yourself in the book that you're presenting there?
Absolutely. That's how I got to all these laws.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Practice what you preach.
Absolutely.
Okay, okay. Well, let's you had the book right there. Let's see the cover. Pull it up. There you go. Nice, nice.
Both of them actually.
Nice, nice.
Mm.
Okay. So it's
And
52 laws of freedom. How will someone be more free if they practice these 52 laws?
I mean, there's 52 ways they'll be more free. Raw self-expression to me is the freest anyone could be because so many people are constricted on who they think they're allowed to be or what society
Mm,
allows them to be. So when you express yourself, raw self is you on 10 all the time. It's the most of you, raw self-expression. And the best way of saying it is that expression is the opposite of depression, and a lot of people
Hmm.
nowadays are depressed, and that's where the mental health comes in. So when you're expressing yourself at the highest capacity, you're the greatest version of yourself. And so many people are not expressing themselves because society doesn't allow them to express themselves. They have to go work, they have to fit in these boxes. Right now the three of us are in a fucking box, so we
Mhm.
just have to fit in boxes all the time. So being able to express yourself and be who you are all the time.
Yeah, yeah,
Sometimes you come home, you can't even be yourself because your wife might be fucking on your ass. But you know, when you are you're the best of yourself all the time, when everyone allows you to be who you are, oh, that's the greatest shit. When people are depressed, it's because they're not allowed to be. they either don't know how to be who they are, or they're not allowed to be who they are. But like
Yeah.
when we are expressing ourselves raw, like no
It's
filters.
self-actualization. You're being who you want, who you truly are.
Yeah, like no matter who's in the room.
Right.
That is the highest
That's hip
form.
hop too. Right? I think that's like the
That,
embodiment of what hip hop is. Yeah.
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's where the whole mental health comes in, because when you're expressing yourself like that, you do feel good, you are fine. And the opposite of that is, so the book literally has 52. I can go to any of these laws, and if you follow these laws, I feel like you'll be able to express it will bring you to a place where you can express yourself better. I know the will, because it allows me to do that.
It works for you.
The proof is
Yeah.
in pudding. I
Yeah.
always can't wait for people to ask that question, because I am the proof. I know
Right.
I'm the living proof. I'm wearing my logo on my chest right now.
Yeah.
Behind me, you see everything that I love. I'm sitting in front of my podcast machine right here. My speakers, my everything I love is surrounding my family's in the next room. My kid, just like everything, like I'm the I'm in a good spot. I feel.
Yeah. Yeah. Looks like
and,
it.
and the
One way I think about depression also sometimes is when people are depressed, it seems like they're often living too much in the past. And when they have anxiety, sometimes it seems like they're living too much in the future. But I think one way to get around that is to focus on living in the present, like live in the now. If you're in the now, then
right,
your mind isn't going to be preoccupied with those other things, right? You're just
right,
peacefully existing.
right. You hit it on the head, and that's one of the laws in a way. So yeah, you hit it on the head, because when you're in the present, you're not worried about the past, you're not scared about the future,
Yeah.
and you're able to freely create. You're able to be who you are,
Yeah.
because you're not fucking worried about this, that, and other. So
Right.
so a lot of times people will be like, yo, how are you able to do this, that, or the third? How come you do so much? And someone asked me the other day, and I'm like, yo, because when the thought comes to me, I just do it. And a lot of people get the thought, and they allow the thought to paralyze themselves. They allow themselves to get put in a box. They start thinking about what people are gonna think, or what they have to do. I'd be like, man, fuck that. As soon as I think of it, I do it. And
Yeah.
I've gotten really good at that shit, to the point where, I know this is the way things are supposed to be, and I know I don't want to make it seem easy, as if I'm just, it's not my book, like the first one is autobiography. So when a lot of this shit, if you read it, you'll find out that I went through fucked up shit. Like I went through tough times, heartbreak, all types of. So
Mm.
it's not a situation where, I haven't drank for almost like 3 years now, but I had a situation where I was drinking all the time. This is not as I went through these 52 laws and had to figure out and find out. So no one's. I'm not like claiming to be perfect or anything, or claiming to. I'm not a doctor, but I do feel that the 52 laws that I was able to come up with over the course of 3 years, that I was able to write down and put in, and they will allow you to express yourself at a high caliber. And I feel like when you can get to that place, that you will be more happy. And it
Yeah.
is about
Yeah.
what you said about living in right now, because a lot of times people are afraid of what will happen if they don't do what they love right now. And so many people are just they're scared, man. And
Right.
I'm not dissing them, because it is easy to be scared. Like, we
Right.
have to go to work, we have rent to pay, we have mortgage to pay, we got car notes to pay. Like, we gotta do, with the foot is on our neck. Like, so it's
Hmm.
so it's I've been scared, and I'm not even saying that I'm not even scared now, but it is about you don't know what's gonna happen. Like, if you can just do it now, just do it now, because we never know what's gonna happen in the future. One of my greatest things that I ever remember hearing is that the women on the Titanic should have who were trying to watch their weight, they should have ate the cake that night.
Right. Right.
Like,
Yeah.
do it,
You
do it.
don't know. You
Yeah.
don't know.
And
And
that,
you brought up a good point where you're talking about that, a lot of people are in boxes. Society tells you you have to be a certain way, you have to do a certain thing. And I think that's kind of appropriate in this area as well, because it's like, oh, you're a hip hop MC. You can't write a book. You can't
mm,
do. do anything like that. You're a hip hop MC. You can't go into politics. You can't be a
Right,
lawyer. Like
right.
it's just,
Right.
people
Vice versa,
don't.
right? I get it on both sides now. Oh, you're in politics. Who do you think
You
you are?
can't.
You're be an MC again. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but
Right.
like Cymarshall was saying, it's about self-actualization, being yourself and just doing it, expressing what you want to express. And I took that mentality to this project that I just put out as well, in that, listen, I wasn't letting any inhibitions or second thoughts stop me from creating, right? If I had a thought and want to express something, I got on the mic and I said it. Again, it didn't mean I put out everything I recorded, but I just gave myself the freedom to create what I wanted to create. You do
Right,
the editing after the fact, right? Once you've already done it, but just go out there and do it, right? Do what's on your minds. Get it off your chest. You'll be a lot healthier for it. And if you're doing art, I think the art would be better that way as well. It worked for me.
right, right.
Right.
Agreed.
Yeah. So what's the response like so far to the book?
So far, yeah, and no one's told me they didn't like it.
Well, it's always a good thing.
Yeah, so far it's so good. The response has been good. I need to market it more.
Okay.
Need to
And
market it more, but it's been good so far.
why do you what's important about the book, and especially now? Like you talked about depression and mental health. Like um what's so important about bringing that book now? Especially, I mean, we're looking at post-COVID, we're looking at.
I feel like you know the answers to this question, but I'll tell you anyway.
Yeah, I do, but I want to hear you know.
I feel like there's an attack on every level right now. Spiritually,
Mm,
physically, mentally. Like we go to the store, there's GMOs in all the food. We turn on social media, it's negative. We like there's so much negativity, and I feel like the things that used to be natural to us, that to make us be, I don't know if I have the word for this, but how we used to be outside all the time, how that is gone, and how
mm,
it's been replaced with like the negativity of social media. And then on top of that, when we go to eat, there's all this like junk in our food. Like when we go to a supermarket, someone said the other day, the fact that there's a health food section in the supermarket means that the rest of the supermarket is
Not healthy.
unhealthy.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's right. There
And
should
then,
be a junk food section and the rest should be healthy. Not
right.
healthy.
Right.
So like there's an attack on every level. So as far as like mental health, like this book is absolutely needed. There are definitely a lot of mental health books. Oh, on top of it, the fact that I am a hip hop guy,
Mm.
I think makes it needed as well, because a lot of times people don't people want to hear stuff from a voice that sounds like them. A lot of time, like there's a lot of people on earth, like there's billions and billions of people, so some people might want to hear it from someone who sounds just like me. Not some people, a lot of people, but you would never know that if you didn't do it. Like they might want to hear my perspective on this, instead of like, some guy who thinks he's a scholar, and someone who looks just like them, who goes to hip hop shows just like them. Like, let me so
Hmm.
like the truth is always needed. So when you express yourself rawly, which is your truth is always going to be needed, because someone always has everyone has the truth, and when you can rawly express your truth to the highest caliber, it's always going to be valuable, because everybody's valuable. Like literally everyone's valuable. So when each individual, if they could, I wish they could, I don't, I don't think it will fucking ever happen. I don't want to say that out, but if each person could be the best of themselves, and I don't even want to say the best of themselves, express themselves rawly, because that's not always the best. What I just mean is honestly, truthfully, whether that's good or bad. When each person can do that, I feel I feel like that's the way to that's been the way to my happiness. And I feel like that because I had to find out the hard way, when I don't create and when I'm not myself.
Mm,
That's when I get depressed. That's when
Yeah, yeah.
that's when my feelings get hurt, and I didn't know that about myself. I had to be like, "Oh shit." Every time you like keep like going like this and keep like that's when your feelings start getting hurt, like, and things start going wrong. And it's because I need to express myself. I didn't know
Yeah,
about myself. And I think a lot of people need that, but they don't know that. That's what I'm trying to say.
Right.
that's a good lesson I think in life, right? Anytime something is feeling off, maybe you can't put your finger on what it is, right? You're just not feeling right. A part of that could be you're just not living the life you're supposed to be living, right? You know deep down that something is off because you're not doing what you want to be doing. You're not being who you want to be.
Right.
And I think it can speak to the creative side of people a lot as well, because society as it is not really set up to explore expression and creativity. It's set up to follow a business path, a job path. You go in, you do
Oh
your
my,
job, you pay your bills, you do that. It's not really an allowance for expression. We're even seeing at certain levels of government and certain people wanting to attack things like creative studies or any sort of arts type of studies, which people need. We need that for our spirit. We need that for our
yeah.
humanity. And so,
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that, Jay, because I had the illest argument with people in law school actually on that point, where they were saying that someone, if they're in law school trying to be a lawyer, they shouldn't be in a music video. I think there was a case of a rap video or something like that, and some law students were found in the video and it became like a big deal. But it wasn't even like they were doing anything scandalous in the video. They weren't like drinking 40s, smoking joints, looking crazy. They were just in the video. And the
right.
whole thing about it's not going to look professional. If you go for a job and they Google you and they find you in that video, they're not going to want to hire you to work in a law firm if they saw you in a music video. And they were saying that was more important. I was like, listen, I mean, all right, if you want to weigh those considerations, you're free to weigh them. But from my perspective, self-actualization, doing what you want to do is much more important than that potential job. I mean, for me personally, everyone's going to think about this differently. But for me personally, I wouldn't want to work at a job. I wouldn't want to be a part of a law firm if they thought being in a music video was disqualified. So, be who you are. You know what I mean? That was my take on it. But a lot of them have that mentality of no, listen, we're in law school, we're trying to get jobs as lawyers. You have to always present yourself in like kind of like a stiff, lawyerly fashion, whatever that's supposed to be. And my whole thing was always just be yourself. I think you'll go further in life just being yourself regardless.
Mm.
Right. And I think mental health has been a major topic, especially these last few years, exacerbated by COVID, when a lot of people were left in solitary situations, and in when a lot of fear and anxiety because of what was going on. And so it's really exploded. So something that addresses mental health, especially in a community or coming from a community like a hip hop community where it doesn't get talked about as much. People have to present to be kind of hard and kind of always strong. Like you may have those conversations in private, but as a public image, it's like, yeah, we don't really talk about it. We don't deal with that. And those struggles do happen. I mean, we've seen, I mean, recently, the community lost Chino XL to suicide. And so these types of things definitely deserve to be addressed and have different outlets and different ways of dealing with it. So
And it's broader than the hip hop community. I mean, mental health obviously is a big issue across the whole country and across the whole world right now.
absolutely, absolutely. And so it sounds like your book is on the right track, to address these types of things, or to
Let's
even
hope.
or to at least help these types of things.
Let's hope so. I feel like it is. I feel
Yeah.
like if it is, I feel good about it.
I look through the book, and like you said, it's laid out where you've got a law each week, and then you've got room for basically journaling or writing on that prompt, which has been one of the recommendations a lot of health professionals have, is to journal, to write things down, to get stuff off your chest, and to mull things over like that. So I think it's a great piece to help people work on themselves.
Yeah, I have a maybe one or two diaries, and every time I go back and read them, I always love that I wrote them. Like I love that I wrote them. So this just a way for that to happen in this book. Also, there are the Mandelas in there, which is cool as hell too, because I made this a coloring book as well. So there are 52 original Mandelas. So the reason I put the Mandelas in there is because the meditative part of this whole situation.
Mm.
I wanted to, just like we were talking about, like the moment of now. One of the most clear times when I'm in the moment of now is when I'm like coloring, because I'm like focused on, like shading. So that's why I
Mhm.
put the mandalas in there. So I wanted to make it so at least for some time during the week you were in the moment. Like I wanted to make sure so there are 52 mandalas in there as well, and that's for the meditative part of this whole situation.
So it's kind of comprehensive. You're giving the listener some homework, even, right? Like, all right, you got to follow these steps. We're going to guide you through the process.
For
Get
sure.
Right.
on right. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting you put that in there. Tech usually would think about coloring as something that children's activities, but adult coloring books are actually very, very big,
Oh, yeah.
very big business, and
During COVID,
highly
right? It was really
recommended.
big, I think.
Yeah, and highly recommended because, like I said, it gives a focus, it gives a calmness, right? It does have creativity baked into it, and so it's actually very beneficial as well. So
Right.
Yeah. Well,
those
Jay,
are
we are running a little short on time. I wanted to get to the poll from last week, and I'm happy to hear Cymarshall's take on what we discussed here as well. So you want to pull up the results really quick of what we talked about?
sure. Sure, sure. So the poll last week, we talked about the New York's Equal Rights Amendment that's on the ballot, and this was basically to enhance equality and protections, and one of them in particular was against age discrimination.
Mm.
So our poll was if New York's Equal Rights Amendment banning age discrimination is passed, are you concerned with potential side effects to senior benefits? Because there was the talk, at least from opponents, that, okay, well, if you put in here you can't discriminate on the basis of age, then someone could come in and say, well, those benefits that are aimed directly at seniors are now discriminating against me, so those seniors could actually lose those benefits. Um, so we put the poll out, and we got we get 65% no, 35% yes. So 65% are not concerned about the potential side effects.
Okay. And we have some comments in there as well, right? You have any interesting ones to point out?
Well, one person was saying that their instinct, they don't know the issue well, but the instinct is saying there's real potential for mischief here and they should leave well enough alone. Um, let's see some other things in here. They're not worried about unintended consequences of this amendment.
Mm.
Um, some think it's fear mongering because this is about state law, whereas Social Security and Medicare are federal programs, so this wouldn't apply to those.
Right. However, a lot of that is administered by the state.
Right, right. And there are definitely some programs statewide that benefit seniors.
Right.
So this type of thing
Yeah. Even
could
locally, right? They have things like uh, transportation for seniors and different things, right? Different benefits.
right. So, um, you have any opinions on this law?
Um, Man, that would be crazy if they tried to take away the senior citizens benefits. I would hope that wouldn't happen. Um, but you can't, I don't know if I could put it against what people would do, because people would do anything, especially in America. So,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of it, hey Jay, I was gonna say a lot of it I think probably does come from this fear mongering and, this maybe even a misinformation. I mean, some of it is valid, I think, in terms of the way it could be abused, but a lot of the opposition you saw to this, I think, was just people trying to scare you from voting for it.
Right. And we brought up, I had brought up the example of how things like this can be used as, as precedent. So like if this is put into place and they're saying you can't discriminate on the basis of age, then it can be taken any way you want to take it. The guy, what was his name? Bloom, the one that architected the overturning overturning of affirmative action. And after getting that precedent that you can't use that, he then went after and started attacking. He, for example, attacked a fund in Georgia that was helping underrepresented women, Black women, for business funds. And he said, well, this fund is no longer legal because you can't discriminate on the basis of race now. And this is a discrimination against me. And he actually won, and they lost that grant fund. So people can take these things and use them in nefarious ways or in good ways. And so this is, even though this could be fear mongering, the potential is still there.
Yeah, yeah. And that was a concern we had, I think, when we talked about this last time, that, a lot of what's in here is good, but it is a pretty broadly written amendment. And maybe it didn't have to go that broad. Maybe they didn't have to put age in there or certain things in there that are more subject to abuse. I think a lot of this came from trying to codify Roe v. Wade, right? Protect abortion rights. But they made it so expansive in the way that they wrote it. Perhaps that was politically motivated as well, in a sense, to try to bring more people on board with it. But I think there are potential side effects there too.
Absolutely. Age, but the age discrimination is a real thing and needs to have protections, but they do need to be mindful of these unintended consequences.
Yeah. And you know what? There are already laws against this type of discrimination. This would strengthen them. This would put them in the Constitution, right, and subject any such discrimination to higher legal scrutiny. So it gives you more rights, the strengthening of your rights, if you want to phrase it like that. But it's not like none of these rights existed in the first place.
Right.
So it is something you have to balance. And my main concern with all of this, because we talked about there were 6 proposals on the ballot. It wasn't just this one. You're tasking voters now with going to the polls, and they're already voting, for president and for Congress and all these different positions. Then they're turning the ballot over, and there are 6 ballot questions. And are voters informed enough about what exactly they're voting to put in the New York State Constitution, right? Because part of the process is for it to be ratified as an amendment in New York State. The voters have to vote for it. But are you giving them enough information to make an informed decision on these questions? Because when you actually read the ballot, I voted early yesterday. When you actually looked at the ballot, it doesn't give you the full text of what you're voting for. And that's actually a surprise to me. Last week, I said it would need to, right? This may be ripe for a legal challenge itself. It's kind of shocking to me as an attorney that they're going to summarize constitutional amendments on the ballot and say, basically, do you want to vote for that plan that was about garbage? Yes or no? Like, you got to say exactly what it is, right? That's actually a reason why I voted no on some of them, because one of them, for example, is about giving the Department of Sanitation more enforcement power, but didn't tell you what exactly they would be able to do. What are you empowering them to do that they can't do now? It just says you want to give them more enforcement power over what? What are the parameters of this? You're not explaining that to people. And I'm an attorney. I look at the stuff. I do election law. And even for me, it's kind of confusing. I mean, imagine what the average voter is feeling. So are you really getting an accurate sense of what the people want by posing these questions to them? I don't think there's enough information that you're giving people.
Right. Yeah. And yeah. So, have you so you're in Jersey, so the things on the ballot will be a little bit different for you, but have you already voted?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
I'll get there.
So, yeah, we went over that last week where we were looking at some of those descriptions, and they even had the ones we were looking at from the New York City Council were even written with strong bias, which was unfair to the voter and wasn't informing the voter well.
Right. That was the .gov, the government website, New York City Council's government website. And on their descriptions of what these things are that we'd be voting for, instead of just explaining what they were, it would be like, wasteful proposal number 5, horrible idea, like that kind of stuff, right on the New York City Council's governmental website.
Crazy.
Right.
There's actually a lawsuit over that now, by the way, Jay. That there is a lawsuit.
Oh, is there? I'm sorry, what did you say?
No, I was just repeating it.
Yeah. No, it was definitely written with a blatant bias in mind from the official city council, which shouldn't be.
Right. And if you look at what was going on there, they characterized number 1 as good, right? And of course, so they describe that in the most brilliant terms, flowery terms. This is strengthen rights for all New Yorkers. Okay. Then you go to number 2 through 6, the other ones, and they're like Mayor Adams' proposals, and all of them are broken down as being terrible. And it seems to be a battle between the Speaker of the New York City Council and the mayor, right? The speaker is
Right.
to give the mayor more power, what he wants. And so they're putting that on the city council website. These are all bad ideas. But again, it's a .gov website. It's not supposed to be a politically charged website. It's supposed to be
Right.
neutral, politically neutral. And so I get it from the perspective of the city council as a body will vote on resolutions saying we support this idea, that idea. I mean, they'll even take a position on what's going on in Congress with foreign policy. They have no direct effect on it, but they can take positions. And so I suppose that would be their argument here. Well, we as a body have taken a position on this. But I still think it's inappropriate. The lawsuit is about that. I don't know if it specifically deals with the website. I'm sure that could be a part of it, but it's overall this idea of the city council going on record as telling New Yorkers how to vote on these amendments.
Right. When was that lawsuit brought up?
Recently, I just saw it in the news after we did the show last week.
So were they listening to us? Was that because
I can guarantee you that they are listening to us, but I think, to be fair, I think they might have filed that prior.
Well, I don't know. I'm just saying because you said on there like this is open for a lawsuit, and then a lawsuit pops up.
Yeah,
I think
well, yeah, definitely, definitely, the council member behind the lawsuit is a follower, and his chief of staff is as well. So I know that they do pay attention to what we're talking about.
that's what's up. That's what's
So
up.
yeah, I was disappointed in that. I still voted yes for one, and like I said, I voted no on some of the others. I think I voted yes on number 6, about the MWBE one, but not enough information out there. That's really my takeaway from that. How are you getting an accurate representation of New Yorkers' feelings on this when you're not even telling them what these things really do and what they are? And I'll even cast it the other way. What if
Right.
people like the ideas that you're trying to promote, right? Like, for example, what if some of these powers that you want to give the sanitation department are really good? People would agree with them. You might have people like myself who would still vote no because they don't know that, because you're not explaining it to them, right? And so by not explaining it, I mean, they might be looking at it like maybe they're getting votes by not giving you the full information, but they could also be losing votes by not telling you what it's doing.
Right. Now, one of the comments brought up that the New York State Republican Party, in their opposition to this, one of the things that they're pushing back and trying to make a name out of is that this amendment will give legal rights to illegal migrants. They've got even lawn signs that they're putting out there. No legal rights for illegal migrants. Vote no on Prop 1.
Well,
So
what is their basis for saying that? Are they saying that one of the categories is no discrimination on the basis of citizenship? Is that in there?
they're not the comment isn't clear on that, but I think one of the talking points where they come from when you're talking about equality and giving people rights is always that type of thing, right? These are not legal migrants. They shouldn't have rights to some degree or whatever. And there's that fear mongering on there when we know it's not happening. They're not voting in federal elections. It's just not happening. They can't. Like it's
Right. Although, to be fair, because this is nuanced, in New York,
right.
the city council did pass a law giving non-citizens the right to vote in local elections, but that was overturned by the appellate court here in New York.
Yo,
Right,
fellas,
right.
let me interject for a second
Go
here.
ahead.
Yeah.
Nah, I'm about to hop off. I just didn't
Okay.
want to cut y'all off, but I appreciate y'all having me on. Thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely. We appreciate you coming on as well. And once again, tell people where they can get the book.
You can get it on Amazon.com or you can get it on my Bandcamp. Actually, go to my website, hiphopintheflesh.com, and you'll figure it out from there.
Hiphopintheflesh.com. There it is.
All right. And you know what? Before you go, we generally at the end of the show we do give the guest what we call is the you know
All right.
the bottom line to sum up the conversation. So I'd like you to give a bottom line, and you can do it from off of talking about your book, about the needs, about artistry, whatever you want to do. What would be the bottom line or the takeaway that you'd like to deliver?
Sure. My bottom line that I would like to give or leave would be to never conform. And when you never conform, you have a direct pathway to raw self-expression because conforming would be putting yourself in a box. So never conform and stay true to yourself all the time. That is the Cymarshall Law. If you ever see this logo on my chest or anywhere you see that logo, that's what this logo means, is to be true to yourself and never conform. So within those words are the direct pathway again to raw self-expression. And when you're expressing yourself at the most rawest form, that is also the direct pathway to, I feel like, happiness and the most enriched life, the most freedom of your time here on earth. And when you have freedom, I feel like freedom is what we're all searching for. I don't even think it's like money or material things. I think it's freedom, and freedom is raw self-expression. So that would be the bottom line.
Well said.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Once again, thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Sam Marshall. And Jay and I are going to continue the discussion, but I know you got to hop off. So we appreciate it.
Thank you, brothers. Peace.
Appreciate you taking the time, man. And much success on the book.
Yo, thank you, brothers. I appreciate y'all. Success on this show.
Thank you. Thank you.
Blessings. Peace.
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 So I just pulled up once again here on Prop 1 the language that's being thrown out there about Proposition 1 would amend the Constitution of New York to also include, in addition to race, color, creed, and religion, which is there now, right? You would also include discrimination on the basis of ethnicity, national origin, age, disability, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, pregnancy, and pregnancy outcomes, as well as reproductive health care and autonomy. So I guess they're really focusing on that national origin piece of it there, when they're saying
Right.
that it could give migrants the right to vote. And it is interesting from the perspective of the court in New York did strike down the attempt to give non-citizens that right. And so I can see this being relevant in the context of that discussion, right? Let's not dismiss this as something that's not ever going to become an issue.
Right.
Add that to the Constitution. It doesn't mean that that's going to be determinative, right? It could still fail, but it is an interesting piece of the puzzle, right? If you add no discrimination on the basis of national origin, that could form part of an argument for why giving those non-citizens the right to vote would be constitutional now. Again, I don't think it necessarily gets you all the way there because discrimination on the basis of national origin is kind of a separate question from whether someone's a citizen, is it not? You're on mute, Jay.
Oh, okay. So, sorry, say it again.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, while it is relevant in that context, I don't necessarily think it gets you all the way there, because if you were to add no discrimination on the basis of national origin, okay, no discrimination on the basis of national origin, but that's still a separate inquiry from whether someone is a citizen or not. Those are two different things, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I think it's, it's the using fear mongering, that this is going to be applied this way.
Yeah.
And these are the people that you don't like, so you don't want this to be applied to them,
Right, right. And again, I think this is a nuanced issue. There is a lot of fear mongering, and I think people's intentions on this are going to vary. Some people are arguing probably in bad faith, or they're being
Right.
misled. They're being brainwashed. They're being told if you pass this, all these horrible things are going to happen, and they just believe it. They go along with it, right?
Right.
With that said, I think in there are valid concerns, and I know maybe it's not politically popular to say that, right? Because then you fear coming off as agreeing with the other side or giving credence to their fear mongering somehow. But from a legal perspective, right, I am aware enough to know that some of these things will be used, like you mentioned before with the affirmative action, they'll be used in lawsuits, and
Sure.
they may
Sure.
gain some traction, right? It doesn't mean they'll get all the way there. And like I said, being a citizen is still being a citizen, okay. But I think it could at least reopen some of those doors.
Right. And here's a comment here that kind of exemplifies that. So this person says it would be nice if that meant us non-seniors could move into those complexes that only rent to seniors.
That would be a lawsuit, right?
Yeah.
That would be litigated.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, saying, well, listen, why do they get cheaper rent there? That's a discrimination against me for being younger. Like I need that rent too. And so someone responded to that saying, but it's not nice for seniors. And they responded back, oh, so reverse age discrimination is okay? Got it. And this is the exact type of use case that people are concerned or they're to talk about, or the possibility.
And this is also why you have that strict scrutiny bar, which is high but not impossibly high, because, like you mentioned, the term reverse discrimination there, that will get
Right.
brought up in all these contexts. In the racial context, it always gets brought up, right? Well, if you're discriminating, if you try to stop discrimination, how are you doing that? By essentially discriminating in another way, like with affirmative action or something like that. And the legal analysis on that would be, well, yes, technically you are discriminating because you're making different categories. You're classifying people in a certain way differently on the basis of race. However, that doesn't end the discussion. Is there a compelling reason to do so? Why are you doing that? Then you start looking at the history. You start looking at the laws that have been in effect throughout the United States and why there's a need to find that equity, right, to counterbalance what's going on. So history becomes relevant there. It isn't only a matter of no discrimination, trump card, I win, right? There are other factors that will go into that. Why are you discriminating in this way? What are you trying to achieve? Is it the least restrictive means of achieving a compelling governmental goal? That's legalese, but these are the questions that the courts are going to ask, right? And again, that's why that there's scrutiny. It's not automatic. It's not an automatic win or lose. It's not a slam dunk case per se. It just makes it hard to get over, or harder to get over these bars.
Right. What I find interesting in this comment section here is one of the critics of the post that I made, this guy Doc Gonzo, saying you don't cite any actual analysis of the proposition itself. The diary is a facile monument to opinionated ignorance.
The diary?
Well, the article, the post that I wrote with the thing, they call them diaries on Daily Kos. So he goes to just comments basically back and forth saying that we don't understand it. Nothing in here says that it can be used this way. However, in an earlier comment, he's debating back and forth with that person who just said it'd be nice for us non-seniors to move into places that rent only to seniors. And he's defending it, saying, but it's not nice for seniors. He's like, we have protected groups for good reasons, which discriminate against others to provide those protections. Is this the first time you're hearing about that? So it's like you see that someone you're in the very comment section, you're seeing someone display the thought process that the posting and the poll is about, and you're defending against it. So you understand that this is a possibility.
Yeah, they're saying that's not a possibility while arguing against someone using one of those possibilities.
Exactly. It's this is just someone being a contrarian, it seems to me, or not understanding where it is.
Right, or not thinking things through entirely.
Right.
And that's what I kind of, I think, cautioned about last week. And honestly, probably this is going to pass, right? I'm not against it. I don't want to be misquoted or mischaracterized. I actually think it's good. Right? It's good to codify these rights and expand our constitutional protections. Absolutely. That doesn't mean there won't be consequences or side effects. Doesn't mean we shouldn't have concerns. We shouldn't have these discussions, right? But I do think that it's a good thing. But this stuff is out there. We have to be aware of it. And, even if only for the purpose of being able to defend against some of these lawsuits we know are coming now.
Right.
We don't be blindsided by the stuff.
Absolutely. So.
I think most people are probably mistaken to vote yes because of how this is phrased, the city council and stuff like that, saying, oh, what will this do? Strengthen New Yorkers' rights. Well, who doesn't want that? Probably is going to pass. As an attorney and as someone who's in support of a good and fair government, I would like also more transparency on these questions, especially a lot has been said about this one. The other ones, not so much, and I fear either some of them passing without people knowing truly what they do, or even maybe some of them being defeated without people knowing what they do because they don't know what they do, right? To some people, it just reads like more red tape, more bureaucracy. You're expanding government, and for what? People might vote to do that if they knew exactly what you wanted, but if it's just another regulation, another rule, another law to put on the books that they don't truly get, some people distinctively vote no because they just don't like the idea of putting more stuff on the books if they don't understand what it says.
Right. Absolutely. And we see that a lot. So, well.
Yeah. So we'll keep an eye on those results. I'm wondering if there is grounds, or maybe there already was, maybe we can research this as well. are there grounds to challenge the way that this ballot measure is being done, that these proposals are being posed to the voters?
Right.
Because how are you going to tell me the voters of New York ratified these constitutional amendments if the voters of New York never even read or were presented with the text of these amendments?
Mm.
That's crazy to me. You go to the polls, you want to vote yes or no on making this a constitutional amendment. What is it? Well, here's a summary that someone wrote in an office somewhere. You're not even explaining, you're not even giving the text. Now, I get it. It would be probably very long if you were to do that. If you were to go and have to vote on the text of these 6 measures and have to read exactly what's going to be in the Constitution if they pass, maybe they figure that's too much text for someone to read while they're at the poll site, bubbling in their ballot. But if that's the case, is that an argument for why we shouldn't be doing it like this in the first place? Maybe they should either have to be shorter, or we should have a different system where the voters aren't voting this way, because it doesn't seem to be a good system overall.
Well, some of it, like we mentioned last week, some of it's also has to be on the voter too, to take some kind of uh, onus as far as educating themselves on it. That means reading multiple articles, reading multiple things. Like,
But isn't
it's
it bad? I agree, and I get that, but isn't it kind of bad that even we had a hard time finding the full
sure.
text? We were Googling, we were searching, we wanted to have a whole discussion on it, and what did we find? Biased summaries from the New York City Council.
Sure. No, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
So this is a problem. Maybe this in itself will become a lawsuit, but all right. We can wrap up with, and this might have been a good topic for Cymarshall to opine on, but the rally that was going on at MSG caught a lot of backlash, right? And I think there's a discussion to be had there about number one, what the hell? Like, how is this even a thing? Like, is this even reality that we're living in, right? This is a rally for a major party's presidential candidate. You're seeing this kind of rhetoric, but
right.
Here's a nuance in that. Is there a focus on the wrong thing, or is there too much? Is it being overplayed? Is the card being overplayed to the point where we can see a backlash with voters? Because you're starting to see some of that. For example, with the whole Arnold Palmer thing. Do you see that one? So Trump did a rally, I guess it was last week now, and he did a riff. I think it was maybe a 2-minute long speech about Arnold Palmer's genitalia.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, this is very weird and strange. Again, a major party candidate for president saying it. But,
right.
With that being said, I think the reaction to it on some of the media outlets might have had a perverse effect, and that I think they were really, really hammering him on that, thinking that this was going to cause him to lose support. And number one, that's transparent. You're supposed to be the media. You're supposed to be a little bit unbiased. But if that is your goal, if your goal is to make him lose support, I think there's a danger of that backfiring when you overplay that card. That's a lot of people look at it like, yeah, we get it. It was crude, maybe inappropriate, whatever, but you're acting like it's the end of the world here. And people kind of respond to that viscerally, right? Now you're losing the whole context of what it was about, what the point you're trying to make, and you're putting it in the larger context of, look how crooked and corrupt these guys are. They just have a clear political bias. They're trying to make something out of nothing, or a mountain out of a molehill, or however the saying goes. And I think you're kind of losing the plot of what you're trying to achieve in the first place.
Right. You said it multiple times. Like, this is the candidate of a major political party. This is a presidential campaign, and this is what's being presented, and it's at this point it's kind of feels normalized in many ways, at least for many people. There is definitely outrage at what came about,
Yeah,
but it's outrage from the people that you would expect to be outraged. It's not outraged by and large by everyone.
well,
There are some people,
yeah,
on that side are like, okay, wait, this seems to be a little bit too far. But
yeah.
I think for the most part, they're
Well,
like, oh,
I'll say this: the one about the comedian saying that Puerto Rico is an island of trash.
yeah,
that one is causing backlash even amongst people who were supporting him before. I'm seeing a lot of stories from people saying, my uncle was a Trump guy. He was going to vote Republican, but he's Puerto Rican, and that just crossed the line for him. Now he's rethinking his vote. Now whether it causes a significant move in the vote, that's
Right.
seen. But you are at least hearing these stories. I also think that there is a danger here of trying to overplay that card. This was a comedian making an inappropriate joke about the trash situation in Puerto Rico, right? We know there's a landfill problem there, whatever. What was kind of an off-color remark. People describe it as racist. Okay, maybe it was in a sense because you're also, I guess, implying the people are trash, I guess. But that being aside, right, as stupid and nasty and ugly as that remark was, I think there's a danger in trying to act like this is Armageddon. This is the worst thing to ever happen. People are going to be like, listen, it was a comedian making a stupid joke. Stop trying to overplay the hand here. This again shows why they have sympathy for him, because I think it kind of feeds into that martyr or persecution complex.
The for those that would already think that way, I think it is something that gives an example of politically correctness being too
Right,
far.
right,
Look, we can't
but
even joke
also,
anymore. We can't even joke anymore. Type
yes,
of
right. But I'm not even only speaking of when you say people who think that way. I'm not even speaking to people who are necessarily going to vote that way. I'm talking about people maybe who are more in the middle. Maybe we're even leaning Democratic. Maybe they thought, I wasn't really sure, but I'm thinking I'm going to go to the poll and vote Democrat this time. When they see all this backlash, they might be like, oh, they're up to their old tricks again. This is why I wasn't really sure about the Democrats. It's like here comes the liberal media, here comes liberals with their cancel culture again, and that kind of stuff. Like I see these comments on social media, like you guys are having a heart attack over a stand-up comedian. Come on, guys. You know what I mean? And I kind of get that coming from the hip hop world. Sometimes they take rap punchlines and they act like it's the worst thing to ever be said by anyone. It's like, dude, it's hip hop, it's comedy. It's sometimes, it's not always an excuse either. But I think there's a danger of overreacting to that kind of stuff. I think a lot of what was said at that rally was much worse because it wasn't coming from comedians trying to be funny. It was coming from people who were trying to be serious. And, like one speaker was paraphrasing Hitler. That to me is
right.
much more serious than a comedian making a stupid joke. Again, I think you call it out, not saying you excuse everything, but when you act like you see this is the worst thing to ever happen to the world in the history of our existence, I think that creates more of a backlash.
Uh, I can see part of that angle on it. But I don't think it should, there is a line between a comedian making a stupid joke and just being blatantly racist with it. And I think he was definitely on the other side of that line of being blatantly racist. And I think he knew his audience was
Right.
going to enjoy it. They know who's there, and it's like they're not, in that space, there's no need to pretend. I thought it was what I thought was 2 points there. One, I thought was quite ironic that he would make the joke like that about Puerto Ricans in New York City.
Right. Well,
Which
the point
is
that you made just really there about the context, right? The audience and the other remarks that were said and what has
right,
come out of that campaign and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think that magnifies why it's an issue and why it is a
right,
negative, nasty thing and it should be called out more. If you took
right,
that context away and it was just a comedian making a bad joke, I think it's more plausible that there is a trash problem in Puerto Rico. This isn't all over the news. He was talking about the trash. It's kind of a stretch to say he means the people, but when you provide that context, I think it's easy to be seen that way.
right. And my I had another reaction that I don't know if I saw a lot of people. I did see a few people that I know make posts in the same way. I felt some kind of a way about the backlash when I'm seeing like Anna Navarro on The View talking about it. I've seen what Jennifer Lopez and Mark Anthony and Bad Money and all them come out and start,
Ed
for
Bundy, but for some
Bad
reason I
Bunny.
thought he was a Republican.
I think it was Bad Bunny. I don't know,
I could
but
be
he's
wrong on that. I think Daddy Yankee was a Republican, right?
I don't know, but I think it was Bad Bunny that posted about it. But it's more like this constituency is now outraged, and my question is, where have you been this whole time? Like,
Right.
why is it
Right.
now that someone's mentioned you specifically? Now you've got an issue. Now it's the Armageddon. Where were you at the last 10 years? Where have you been at the last, couple of
Right.
months?
Right.
And
But yeah, he
you've
come
been
out
a
and
part of that group all along.
he
They've been
said,
talking about you too. Like,
right, right. He said Mexicans were rapists, so they think,
that
oh,
was his
we're,
first
we're
words.
cool. We're cool with him hating on the Mexicans, but not the Puerto Ricans. Like you're gonna really be like that. It's interesting.
Right. Haitians, they just talked about the Haitians eating dogs, and before that talking about, the Haitians. You know, where have you been the whole time? And I know that speaks to something that is commonly talked about as far as thinking some groups think they might be different, or some parts of groups thinking they might be different. No, you might want to try to close the gap and the
Yeah.
distance in to whiteness, but in reality, those people on that side that have that thought process, you are just as other as some of the other
Right,
people.
right. And I think one practical difference is that Puerto Ricans are American citizens. So maybe there were some who thought that when he was making those other comments, he was really talking about quote unquote illegal immigrants or whatever. It doesn't apply to us.
Sure.
Right? Now it hits home and it's like, oh, wait a minute. He is talking about everyone. He is an equal
But this is not
opportunity.
even the first time as far as that. I mean, how he handled the devastation that happened in Puerto Rico when he was president
Yeah, throwing
should have
towels.
disqualified him from
Yeah,
their vote first,
yeah.
because he didn't even realize they were part of the country.
Right, right.
And it's just, to me, that was what struck me. One of the points, especially listening to Anna Navarro, she's like, when this happened, then the bat signal went up, and then a lot of big Puerto Rican entertainers started posting. And I'm like, well, where was the bat signal, before?
And that's kind of what I mean. I think some of this comes off as phony outrage or performative outrage, right? I'll go back to the Arnold Palmer situation, right? You had CNN devoting entire segments to how nasty and crude and disgusting this was and how disqualifying this. And like, this is what you're focusing on, really? It was a stupid bit about a golfer. But the more you act like this is the worst thing to ever happen, number one, you're not giving due consideration to the more serious issues and even, by the way, serious negative things that he's done and he said, right? So you're kind of making a mockery of the real stuff to me. And also, you're again feeding into this thought that that this is election interference. This is them just trying to put their thumb on the scale. That they're not really mad about this, and if they are, do we really want to be associated with these freaks up
Right.
here who get so offended that someone talked about another man's private parts? Like again, it's off color for a presidential candidate, but to me, there's a danger of overreacting and making it seem like it's the worst thing that could ever possibly happen when there are much worse things that he's done and said.
Right. And I think in that case, I'm more in line with what you're saying there, as far as talking about Arnold Palmer's junk. Like, I don't think that deserves a whole segment, a whole show on CNN about it. You comment on it about it's supposed to be a president, and there's certain decorum that they should, yeah, but doesn't you don't need to dedicate a whole afternoon to talking about this guy's junk and how this other guy is talking about his junk. I
Yeah,
think
because
this this
honestly, Jay, it looks desperate. It comes off as desperate. Like, really, like this is what they're resorting to now. You know what I mean? And again, whereas he, from making the comments initially, was the one who looked worse, right? Now he actually looks better by comparison because they're making fools of themselves, saying how horrible it was.
Well, I don't know if I'd say better by comparison, but
To a lot of voters, he does. I'm telling. This is what I see.
I can see
A lot of
that
voters because the coverage turns people off.
right. I can see that where it's like, okay, maybe they're blowing it up a little bit too much. I think, to me, it's different than what we saw at Madison Square Garden and the comedian. I think this does warrant a little bit more discussion, but the talking about the dude's junk, I think that's,
Yeah, and again, I'm not saying don't discuss it, but
sure, sure.
just to me, it seems blown out of proportion because, and not because I think it's acceptable, but because I think it's counterproductive. I think that
Right,
what it does is it just makes people go, you see, here they go again. They're trying to
right.
come up with a scandal. They're desperate. They'll do whatever they can to make them look bad. and it just plays into all of that. I think there are real, more important things to be discussing. Again, at that rally, it was a cumulative effect of all of it. It was terrible what you saw
Sure.
there. But reciting a speech where you're saying word for word what Hitler said in Nazi Germany, but you're changing
Right.
Germany to America. That's a lot more alarming to me than a comedian making a bad joke.
I think both are very, yeah, both should go through serious scrutiny, especially the Hitler one. And it's I don't think his side sees it or cares on that point, but it's still something that needs to be raised. It still needs to be
It
talked about.
doesn't it
And
doesn't matter what anyone's base thinks. They're locked in. They already voted, or they're going to vote. It
right.
doesn't matter. We're talking about people who are still gettable, and there are people, and people might be leaning one way or another. You see them on these town
Yeah.
halls. They say, I'm leaning this way, I'm leaning that way. I'm still, when I get into the ballot box, that's when I make up my final mind, right? And
Right.
a race like this is determined by a few thousand voters in a handful of states. So this all matters at the margins, right? What happens at the margins has a huge impact on the outcome.
Right.
I'm saying be careful with how you cover these things. I do think there's a danger
Sure.
in coming off as being performative, being phony, overreacting. It was a comedian
Right.
making a stupid joke, a bad joke. Like you said, we condemn it, but we move on. You know what I mean? I don't think you
Right.
spend days
Well,
like this is
to
a
me,
huge
there's a little
scandal.
bit more to it than that for the bad joke. For the dudes, the golfers junk, I think, yeah, you do that and then
But
move.
we have to be fair. We're putting it in the context of all the other terrible things that are being said. Yes, but there's also context of a comedian, a roast comedian, right? Going
Yeah.
up there and doing what he normally does. I'm not familiar with his work. I don't know if he usually makes racist
Not
jokes or
either.
whatever, but I don't think it's too out of character or off par. No pun intended for the Palmer for what he usually does. It's a comedian making jokes. I saw someone comment, "You guys really mean to say you've never seen a comedian make a racist joke before? Like, what bubble have you been living in?" And it kind of makes
Sure,
it
no.
seem out of touch to act like, you know what I mean? Like this is the worst thing that's ever happened in the history of mankind.
No, but it's also the place matters. This isn't a comedy club,
Right.
in Alphabet City on a Thursday night or something like this is one of the biggest stages in the world at one of the races in the world that's being the most closely watched,
Right.
and there's a context really matters in that
It
regard.
does, right? All the
But
context. And from that perspective, by the way, for me, I'm like, wow, as a political move, and maybe the campaign didn't know what he was going to say or whatever, but it just seems odd that this is the message they want to be putting out now. I'm sure
well,
this is
here's the
not
thing.
the story they wanted to be out there.
Speaking to that, real quickly, I did see something earlier before we came on here where it appears that, because the campaign is kind of disavowing to some degree some of the statements, or we don't agree with the everything he said type of thing. However, it's come out, at least reported, that a few Trump staffers have said that they did cut out a joke before, because apparently the comedian called uh, Kamala Harris the C word in one of his jokes, and they made sure to take that out. So that means they allowed these to be in, and so they did have some sort of foreknowledge of what was going to be said, and were okay with it.
Yeah, and didn't see. I thought that also can speak to them being in their own bubble to the extent
Sure.
that they don't realize how this rhetoric is being perceived, right? The
Right.
context of how this will be received, because they might be looking at it just on paper as a joke about the garbage situation in Puerto Rico. But when you put it in the context of, look, this is just not long after the cats and dogs comment about the Haitians. So when you put it into context of the campaign and the kind of rhetoric that has been put out there by that side repeatedly, I think
Right.
you need to be more cognizant of how that joke will be read, will be received.
Right. And I think, to your point, the cumulative effect of elevating every little thing or everything to the height of Mount Everest, it can water down the points when they are actually Mount Everest moments, because it's like people just burnt out. I mean, they're
It's like the
just
boy who cried wolf. It's like the boy who cried
adrenaline
wolf almost.
fatigue.
It's like the boy
Yeah.
who cried wolf. And you're right. And that's the thing. So when something truly scandalous does happen, because we talked about, oh, he can get away with anything, right? We're numb to it now.
Right.
This is part of the reason why, I think, because people will be like, oh yeah, every week you're telling us the worst thing, the sky is falling with him, and he's doing the worst thing that's ever been done since Hitler. So
But
you lose credibility.
at the same time, it has been every week he does say something that's just outrageous all the time. It's just so much that
Right.
it's like, how do you deal with it when everything
It's
is
not
just
news, right? I think, didn't you have a line about that on intimidation? Something like such and such is not even news.
yeah, to the point where it isn't even news, where basically outrage isn't even news anymore. I forget the line exactly, but the idea was, yeah, that this type of outrage isn't even news anymore because it's just,
Right. It's not new. That's why it's not new. Literally, it's not new.
common.
So yeah,
I think what we
I think that's
need,
all relevant.
yeah. I did see in that regard, speaking of the news, there was a clip that came up where Charlemagne was talking to Anderson Cooper on CNN, and he was bringing up that point about how that the media isn't covering this as seriously as it should be, and they're comparing all these things to be equal. And Anderson Cooper was pushing back, and he's like, no, like, look, everyone is saying that this is basically the end of democracy, and you're still giving equal weight to the arguments on both sides. Like, this is not such a serious situation. Like, this is just regular day in the news reporting cycle. And that's what we need, to me, is what's been missing, not just from the news, but also from the Democrats as well. So, I mean, we got a couple of days, like 5 days to go, 6 days, something like that. So
Uh, yeah, well,
let's
no, a week. It's Tuesday, next Tuesday.
next Tuesday. So
Yeah, but I was talking about this yesterday when I was at the polling site for early voting. Of course, there's the early vote. There's also the absentee vote that comes in after, and in many states they don't count them until after the fact, and so
right,
it's a very good chance we're not going to know who won on election night.
right, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And one last thing, I forget what it's called, the phenomenon of red something and blue something on election. And this is where some people were getting confused as far as so-called corruption, and Trump was using as corruption, is because typically red votes get counted first, so it looks like any red candidates have a lead early on, and then because they're in smaller towns and this
Right.
like that, and then it takes longer to count votes in like New York and LA, to where there's more blue votes, and so it looks like the red candidate, oh, how can they make up such a difference? And I forget what they called this. It's called the red something, and I forget what it
Right.
is.
Well, the other thing also is that the mail-in vote, the absentee vote, tends to skew Democratic, and so Republicans historically have voted in person on election day, and
Right,
the early vote and the mail vote tends to be more Democratic because the Democratic Party doesn't engage in scare tactics about voting that
right,
way. So,
right. Red Mirage and the blue shift.
gotcha.
That's
I
term.
haven't heard it put in those terms before, but that is a real thing. I
Right,
believe I was looking back to 2020, and Biden was down 11 points in Pennsylvania
right,
on election night. And that's part of why some people didn't believe it was legit, right? Because,
right,
let's be real, all along, the country has been used to going to sleep on election night and knowing who won, right? Having pretty solid results. So when people
right,
went to sleep on election night, they saw Trump with an 11-point lead in Pennsylvania. They thought there's no way that could overturn. And it is a big jump, right? I mean,
right, right.
maybe you expected to shift 1 or 2 points here or there, but for it to be 11 points, some people were like, whoa, this is not normal. This can't be real. People, I
Right.
think we're easily deluded because of that. So
Sure.
it is something we have to be mindful of. I'm
Right.
optimistic that we're not going to see that dramatic a shift this time, because I think we're a little bit more normalized now coming out of COVID. 2020, that was right in the heart of COVID. We were encouraging people not to vote in person, if you remember. So you had
Right.
so many mail-in votes. That was the standard, right? Now you're still going to have a lot, like we talked about Cymarshall before. We kind of have a new world now. A lot of people got used to it. They like voting that way, but it isn't going to be the overwhelming number that it was before. At least
Right.
I'm hopeful that what we see on Election Day will be closer to the final result. It's not going to be, like you said, this is mirage. It's not going to be the final. The numbers will shift a lot, and we have to be patient
Right.
on that. But I don't
Right.
think, it was just a prediction of mine. I don't think you're going to see like an 11-point shift in the state like you did last time.
Right. Okay. Well, let's hope for a positive outcome.
Yeah.
So actually, wow, the show next week will be on election night.
It will, and I'm gonna have to work this out because I am planning, as of now, to be a roving election attorney out here to make sure that our poll sites are running smoothly and we don't have any issues at the polls. And so I will be out all day on election day. At least that's my plan right now. But I still want to make time to come to the show and we can kind of look at how things are going
Right.
next week. So I'll have to figure out where I'm going to be if I can find a place to plot myself or get back here to do
Right.
that. So.
And we could probably do a shorter show.
Right.
Actually, I'm flying out that day. My flight leaves at probably about 11 a.m.
Oh,
So
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 after, okay, so it'll be 11 a.m. Wednesday, your time.
yeah, so I have to immediately after the show, I have to head to the
Oh,
airport.
wow.
So yeah, so it's gonna be a
Yeah.
busy day for
So we can do an abridged version of the show next week.
right, right.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
All right.
I think
That sounds
sounds
good.
good.
He gave us the bottom line already.
Yeah, and so people can find us on YouTube at Nuance Show, Instagram Nuance Show as well, and then everywhere podcasts are available. Subscribe and comment, and take part in the conversation, and make sure to vote.
Yes, yes. And if you don't vote, you get the rubber chicken of the week. It's
You
important
get
that
the work.
everyone participates in our democracy. Don't be a rubber chicken, but do stream the Mike Scholar album. It's out now. Let us know what you think. As always, thank you for joining us. We've got work to do, and we'll catch you next time on Election Day.